بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has once again enabled us to meet here on this platform to continue our journey with our history here in the Cape. And we are presenting the series under the Sheikh Abadi Institute, which is located at the Awal Masjid in Bukab. And our slogan is understanding our heritage for a brighter future. We have the series that we started a few weeks ago, and it's the Learn to Understand series, looking at our traditional gatherings and what is recited in these gatherings, and taking our relationship with what is recited beyond the recitation to its translation and commentary and a level of understanding, making our activities more meaningful beyond the lagos and the tunes and the harmonizing that we are known for in Cape Town, taking our relationship with what we are rendering at these gatherings to a level of understanding, and hopefully it will be more meaningful to us, inshallah. We are looking at the selection of content by Imam al-Barzanji, which in Cape Town is referred to as the Riwayat. And it is a qasida, a selection of 22 sets of information, narrations, dealing with the messenger, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And in Cape Town, the first four sets are commonly recited. We have looked at the first riwayah, which is an introduction by Imam al-Barzanji as to what he intends to do. We have looked at the second riwayah, which details and clarifies the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's lineage and his ancestry. And we have addressed the third riwayah last week, which mentions a few of the pre-birth occurrences, what is narrated to have happened and thought to have happened prior to the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So before we address the fourth riwayah this evening, let's listen to the third riwayah, the one we discussed last week. Let's listen to it by Haji Majdi Jackson, one of the current seniors and leading um, uh, gentleman in the Bukab area, known for his commitment to the dhikr gatherings, and known for his wealth of experience and knowledge regarding the traditions of the Cape and the people of the Cape in this regard, in the gatherings of dhikr and the gatherings of salutations on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's listen to Haji Majdi Jackson rendering the third riwayah, inshallah. And obviously, I think he starts with عطر اللهم قبره الكريم بعرف شذي من صلاة وتسليم. Our famous, unique salutation, where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to perfume the qabr, the noble grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with a beautiful fragrance of salutation and peace.
عطر اللهم قبره الكريم بعرف شذي من صلاة وتسليم
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه.
ولما أراد الله تعالى إبراز حقيقته المحمدية وإظهاره جسما وروحا بصورته ومعناه
Allah.
نقله إلى مقره من صنفة آمنة الزهرية وخصها القريب المجيب بأن تكون أما لمصطفى.
You will note that Haji Majdi Jackson said Aminat al-Zahriya, and certain scholars have rendered it with a fatha on the za. However, I found that many prefer reading it with a dhamma on the za, Aminat al-Zuhriya. But if you were to render it to me or for me later, inshallah, at a later stage, you have a choice between al-Zahriya and Zuhriya, whichever you are more comfortable with. Banu Zuhra, Banu Zahra.
ونودي في السماوات والأرض بحملها لأنواره الذاتية وصبا كل صب لهبوب نسيم سبا.
Okay. You see, I have the word Nasim in brackets. Why? Because there are many who read that section of the riwayah without the word Nasim. وَصَبَا كُلُّ صَبٍّ, and every ardent lover inclines towards hububi sabah, lihububi sabah, to the blowing of his easterly wind. But if you say lihububi nasimi sabah, it's also read in this manner, and it's documented as part of the Barzanji. Al-Imam al-Barzanji either had it with the word Nasim or without, and Nasim means breeze, a breeze. So lihububi Nasimi sabah means to the blowing of the breeze of his easterly wind. And every ardent lover was inclined towards the blowing of the breeze of his easterly wind. So it's nice. So we'll add Nasim, inshallah. Let's continue.
كسيت الأرض بعد طول جدبها من النبات حللا سندسية وأينعت الثمار وأدنى الشجر للجاني جناه ونطقت بحمله كل دابة لقريش بفصاح الألسن العربية وخرت الأسرة والأصنام على الوجوه والأفواه وتباشرت وحوش المشارق والمغارب ودوابها البحرية واحتست العوالم من السرور كأس حميا.
You heard Uncle Majdi saying, وَاحْتَسَّتِ الْعَوَالِمُ, with a shadda on the scene. I've heard this before, but based on the language, if you were to add the scene there, the meaning would not fit. The meaning would not fit. Without the shadda is preferred. وَاحْتَسَتِ الْعَوَالِمُ وَاحْتَسَتِ الْعَوَالِمُ مِنَ السُّرُورِ كَأْسَ حُمَيَّا. So practice that.
وبشرت الجن بإذلال زمنه وانتهكت الكهنة ورهبت الرهبانية ولهج بخبره كل خبر حمير وفي حلا حسنه تاه.
Nice. Just make sure in the last piece there you first have وَلَهِجَ بِخَبَرِهِ. That's correct. And then كُلُّ حَبْرٍ خَبِيرٍ. كُلُّ حَبْرٍ خَبِيرٍ. First a ha and then a kha. Habr would be the learned Jewish scholar, like the rabbi. And khabir, well-informed. The well-informed or learned rabbi. كُلُّ حَبْرٍ خَبِيرٍ وَفِي حُلَى حُسْنِهِ تَا.
وأتيت أمه في المنام فقيل لها إنك قد حملت بسيد العالمين وخير البرية وسميه إذا وضعته محمدا لأن أو ستحمة عقبا.
Okay, you've heard at the end there. Uh, Uncle Majdi said لِأَنَّهُ instead of فَإِنَّهُ. I found both documented, both have been allowed by those who read this text. فَإِنَّهُ means for verily he, and لِأَنَّهُ means because he. So if you say it that way, so name him when you have given birth to him, name him Muhammad, for verily he, his outcome, his result will be praised. But if you say لِأَنَّهُ, like Haji Majdi said, then it means when you give birth to him, then name him Muhammad because he, his outcome, his end result will be praised. So both are allowed. فَإِنَّهُ or لِأَنَّهُ, you have a choice. Okay, he then concludes.
عطر اللهم قبره الكريم بعرف شديد من صلاة وتسليم.
Allah
اللهم صل وسلم
sallim wa
وبارك
barik alayhi.
عليه.
We say shukran to Uncle Majdi Jackson. May Allah bless him and keep him with us for many good years to come. Ameen. Okay, before looking at the fourth riwayah, and firstly, the fourth riwayah we will look at in two parts. The first part, which we will address this evening, inshallah, is generally where our reciters in Cape Town stop. Generally, the second part of the fourth riwayah is not recited. Generally, the second half of the fourth riwayah is not recited. That makes it a bit easier for you. If you want to recite it to me for ijazah, just do the first half. I'll show you until where. You will see this evening until where, because then in Cape Town, they start with salawat. Anyway, so the first half. Before looking at the fourth riwayah, I want you to consider the following narration that is linked to Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's cousin. Maaf, a long day. He, Abdullah ibn Abbas, passed away. I mean, was about was in his teens when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Abdullah ibn Abbas was a teenager when the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. But you will not find the book of tafsir today, except that you will find Abdullah ibn Abbas's name in there, commenting on the verses of the Holy Quran. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a special dua for Abdullah ibn Abbas, and it was that Allah must grant him, must teach him how to interpret the Quran and grant him a deep understanding of the deen. Abdullah ibn Abbas took what all he could take from Rasulullah before the Nabi passed from this world, and then he took what all he could gain from the companions and whomsoever he came into contact with. Okay? Now, there's a narration that's linked to Abdullah ibn Abbas. A report that Abdullah ibn Abbas said something. Many scholars have spoken about this narration, and some have deemed the narration weak because of the people that narrate this narration or link this narration to Ibn Abbas. Not because of him, because of those who have claimed to narrate this from him. Some scholars have deemed it weak, and some scholars have even deemed it fabricated, made up. The narration is as follows. Abdullah ibn Abbas is reported to have said, from the signs of his conception, the conception of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does conception mean? When his mother became pregnant with him. Abdullah ibn Abbas is documented to have said. Now, Al-Imam Ibn Kathir documents this in his book Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, the start and the end, the beginning and the end. Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya is a book of history. He documents this there, and other scholars, Al-Imam Al-Bayhaqi documents it as well. So, what do they say? Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said, they said that he said, from the signs of his conception, the Nabi's conception, was that every animal of Quraysh spoke on that night, saying, verily, the messenger of Allah has been conceived. And then they took an oath by the Lord of the Kaaba. Now, if you go back to last week's narrative, one of the things Al-Imam al-Barzanji said is that نطقت كل دابة نطقت بحمله كل دابة لقريش بفصاح الألسن العربية. Every animal of Quraysh spoke about and mentioned his being conceived, and they spoke in eloquent Arabic. So Imam al-Barzanji took that idea that he mentions in the third riwayah, he took it from this narration. That in the evening, the animals said and mentioned this, that the messenger of Allah had been conceived, and they took an oath, وَرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ, by the Lord of the Kaaba. The narration continues. Ibn Abbas then says, there was no soothsayer from the Quraysh or any other Arab tribe except that he was veiled from his companions. What's a soothsayer? Someone who now predicts the future and speaks to people about the unseen. And it was believed that these people had companions of the jinn that would whisper into their ears, giving them certain information. But that night, when Nabi Muhammad was conceived, Abdullah ibn Abbas said, the soothsayers were blocked, they were veiled, they were kept away from their unseen companions. Things of the unseen changed. There was no throne from that of the kings of the world except that it shook. It had a tremor. It was disturbed. Huh? This is now the narration. And the animals of the east and the west congratulated each other as well as those of the seas. Now, all these three things, these 3 points, supposedly narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas, Al-Imam al-Barzanji mentions these three things in the third riwayah about the soothsayers being weakened, about the thrones and the idols shaking and falling, and the animals of the east and the west as well, wadawab wal bahriya, and its ocean creatures all giving each other glad tidings, congratulating each other. And then وَنُودِيَ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, there was a call in the heavens as well as on the earth, proclaiming, rejoice, abshiru, rejoice for the time of Abul Qasim. Who's Abul Qasim? Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Abul Qasim. His child, his first son, later from Khadija, he named Qasim. For the time of Abul Qasim has arrived, and he is soon to appear, blessed and favored. So these four things were mentioned by Imam al-Barzanji in his third riwayah, and we can see obviously he drew the idea from this. Whether it's confirmed or not, but he mentions this in his third riwayah, and we can say on the one hand it was as if a metaphor, speaking about the call in the heavens, speaking about the animals congratulating each other, speaking about the throne shaking, etc., speaking about the soothsayers and all being weakened. It's a metaphor. Things were happening behind the scenes, but he drew the idea, took the idea from this narration, even though it's a weak narration. And then the narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas supposedly ends with the following. Some more detail, but it ends with the following. It's narrated that Abdullah ibn Abbas said his mother, meaning the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mother, Amina, used to say, I was approached in my dream when I was 6 months pregnant, with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in my dream, someone said to me, she was 6 months pregnant, and she was approached in her dream. Someone said to her, "Oh Amina, You have carried the leader of the worlds, Sayyid al-Alameen. So when you give birth to him, then name him Muhammad and conceal your state. You with me? Now, this also is the end of the third riwayah. وأتيت أمه في المنام فقيل لها إنك قد حملت بسيد العالمين وخير البرية. She was approached in her dream, and it was said to her, you have carried the chief of the worlds, the leader of the worlds, and the best of creation. So when you give birth to him, فسميه إذا وضعته محمدا فإنه ستحمد عقباه. Name him Muhammad because his end will be praised. But this narration says, name him Muhammad and conceal your state. Telling her, Amina, in the dream, telling her, don't disclose this to anyone yet. Don't disclose, don't tell anyone, don't inform anyone of what you are experiencing and seeing now yet. So, those ideas or points of information, Al-Imam Barzanji used in his third riwayah and mentions it there. So it's not that he came up with it from his own mind by himself. He was obviously exposed to this narration. And then at the end of this uh, documented chain linked to Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, even though the chain is weak, it's reported that Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhuma, said, she said, meaning Amina said, I saw tall women surrounding me. This is now at the time of giving birth. At the time of giving birth to Nabi Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said, I saw tall women surrounding me. Strange women, she didn't know them. And when I asked who they were, they said, the woman said, we are Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. Let me just change it there. Fir'aun. Where it passed on centuries ago. She was there in a soul form, a spirit form. We are Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, and Maryam, the daughter of Imran. Who's Maryam, the daughter of Imran? Ay, the mother of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And these are women of the beautifully eyed damsels. Who are the beautifully eyed damsels? Ay, the Hurun Ain. Now, this is now what's in the narration. I'm not saying this. I am not saying this. This is what is documented as per that chain linked to Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabi. And like I said, some deem this narrative weak, and some even claim it to be fabricated. But it is there, and we are simply narrating what and trying to find how did Al-Imam al-Barzanji come up with these ideas, because this last piece here, Al-Imam al-Barzanji mentions this in the fourth riwayah. The issue of Asiya and Maryam and Hurnain being present at the time of his birth, Al-Imam al-Barzanji mentions this in the fourth riwayah. Whether it happened or not, Allah knows best. But the world of the unseen, the barzakh, where the souls are in a transitory state and phase and space, we do not know what happens there. All that we know is Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the Isra and Mi'raj met the Anbiya, and these Anbiya, except for Nabi Isa alayhi salam, all these Anbiya had tasted death. They had passed on from this realm to the next realm, but he met them and they interacted with him, and it just shows that that existence, that realm is real. And Allah, as He is in charge of us here, He's in charge of all of those in the barzakh as well. And we also informed in a hadith that um, when you greet the Ahlul Qubur, the people, the inhabitants of the grave, their bodies are laid there, but where are their souls? Their souls are in the barzakh, but there's a connection between their souls and where their bodies are laid to rest. So if you greet at the maqbara, the souls are aware of it, and you only greet those who are able to respond to you. But that's for another space and another entirely other discussion. Even those scholars like Al Imam Ibn Kathir spoke of its chain of narration and deemed it weak. He, Al Imam al Barzanji, chose to draw from it and include aspects of it in his third and fourth riwayah. We trust that he, as an independent scholar, made independent research and had his own opinion regarding this narration. He had his own opinion regarding this narration. We merely convey what he has chosen to present in this qasida, and the specifics of the content, please, the specifics of the content of the third and fourth riwayah, they are open for further discussion and debate for another time, and Allah knows best. But this year is a work of love and a work of salutation to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that has been passed on over these 300 years, and scholars all over the Muslim world, including Egypt and Libya, have have been reciting, and Yemen have been reciting this for these 3 centuries, drawing them to send salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and reminding them whether this actually happened or not. But the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not like any other human being. He is the beloved of Allah's, the most beloved of Allah's creation to Allah. And then go back to the last few ahadith that I quoted last week regarding the inanimate objects, acknowledging Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and not only that, greeting him, where Ali himself said he can remember hearing not a single stone or tree that they passed by except that it greeted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So anyway, that's the discussion regarding this narration is for another time. But let's look at the fourth riwayah. It starts with اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه ولما تم من حمله شهران على مشهور الأقوال المروية توفي بالمدينة المنورة أبوه عبد الله. And when 2 months of his conception had passed, based on the famously narrated statements, his father, Abdullah, passed away in the illuminated city. I chose not to translate it simply as the illuminated Medina because at that time it was not yet referred to as Al Medina, it was referred to as Yathrib, but it was illuminated and became illuminated later when the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam settled in it. So see what he's saying? He's saying here, based on the most famous narratives, Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah passed away when the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was only 2 months in his mother's womb, not 2 months old, meaning Amina had completed her second month of pregnancy when her husband Abdullah passed away. So in 2 months of the Nabi's having been conceived in his mother's womb, when 2 months had passed, the Nabi's father Abdullah passed away. Okay? وَلَمَّا تَمَّ مِنْ حَمْلِهِ شهران means 2 months على مشهور الأقوال المروية توفي بالمدينة المنورة أبوه عبد الله. Okay, I have a beautiful clip here of Haji Amin Kanamaya of Leeuwenstraat book up, reading the start of the fourth riwayah. I'll go through the verses first and then we'll play the recording of Haji Amin reciting the start of the fourth riwayah, inshallah, as traditionally rendered in Cape Town, and where the Cape Town reciters suffice and end with. So anyway, here's your start. Got that? It's going to speak now. It addresses the time of his birth, the time of Nabi Muhammad's birth. But this opening statement is just prior to his birth, when his mother had already carried him in her womb for 2 months, meaning she was 2 months pregnant. His father passed away in Medina. Now, how come his father passed away in Medina and they were living in Mecca? Huh? How come? وكان قد اجتاز بأخواله بني عدي من الطائفة النجارية ومكث فيهم شهرا سقيما يعانون سقمه وشكواه. He had indeed passed by his maternal uncles. Some translate this as visited. No. He actually, Abdullah, went to the north, to Sham, for business. And on his way back from Sham, he fell ill and he thought he will pass by Yathrib, where his relatives were, his maternal uncles were, the cousins from his mother's side, right? Where they were. So he can just recuperate there and get better there. He spent a month there, but unfortunately, at the end of this month, he did not get up. At the end of this month there, by his relatives in Medina, he passed away. By his relatives in Yathrib, as it was then known. وَكَانَ قَدْ اجْتَازَ بِأَخْوَالِهِ. He had indeed passed by his maternal uncles, Bani Adi, of the children of Adi, the descendants of a man whose name was Adi ibn Malik, who was from the Najjar clan, min al-Ta'ifat al-Najjariyah. The Najjar group, the Najjar clan, they were part of the greater tribe of Khazraj, who was half of the Ansar. The Ansar of Medina consisted of the Aus tribe and the Khazraj tribe. And each tribes were broken down into clans and groups. So from the Khazraj group was the Banu Najjar. And in Banu Najjar, there was smaller, they call them batn, tummies, where certain wombs resulted in another group of descendants. So from the Najjar clan, there was the children of Adi, and they were of the maternal relatives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Abdullah, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's father, Abdullah went and tried to recuperate there, rest there, regain his health and strength there by them. وَمَكَثَ فِيهِمْ شَهْرًا. He remained, makatha means he remained, فِيهِمْ amongst them, shahran, a month. Saqiman, in an ill state. He remained amongst them ill. He remained ill. So you change it. He remained ill amongst them for a month. He remained ill amongst them for a month. يُعَانُونَ, in which they showed concern. They showed concern, سُقْمَهُ, for his illness, وَشَكْوَاهُ, and his suffering. Okay, so it simply means they tended to him. And they were very concerned about his state because they also knew his wife was there in Makkah. And he must have informed them that he has to get better, he has to get back because his wife is pregnant. She just completed her 2nd month of pregnancy. But unfortunately, he passed away there. So the previous piece said, Tuwuffiya bil Madinati. He was taken, he passed away in Madinatil Munawwara. Okay, so now it continues. وَلَمَّا تَمَّ مِنْ حَمْلِهِ. And when على الراجح 9 أشهر قمرية, when 9 lunar months, 9 lunar months had been completed, when 9 lunar months, when the 9 lunar months had been completed, على الراجح, based on the most acceptable a source, 9 months a of what? Of pregnancy. Since his conception in his mother's womb, when 9 lunar months had been completed, based on al-rajih, the stronger and the most acceptable source, وآن للزمان أن ينجلي عنه صداه, and the moment arrived, آنا للزمان, for time, أن ينجلي عنه صداه, that its rust be removed. I have this narration too. Sada, as understood as originally, sada'uhu, sada'uhu. Sada means rust. أن ينجلي عنه, that they be removed from it, from time, sada'uhu, its rust, as if time became rusty and time became moldy. So the moment arrived that this rust that's over time and this mold that's over time be removed. Others understood sada, which is from a verb, sada yasdu, as being to be thirsty. But yanjalia fits better with rust. However, it could be accepted that the thirst be lifted, the thirst be raised, the thirst be moved or removed, that its thirst be lifted. And the moment arrived for time that its thirst be lifted. But if you think of sada as sada uhu, sada originally, and here as a poet, he has poetic license, he can manipulate and he can amend a word slightly, then it would mean, and the moment arrived for time that its rust be removed. But most go with the thirst, and the moment arrived for time that its thirst be lifted and raised. The thirst for what? The thirst for guidance. Because the existence at that time was plagued by ignorance and the darkness of paganism, okay, false beliefs. So the moment had arrived that the thirst for guidance be addressed, the thirst for guidance be quenched. And whatever was rusty of the brilliance of faith, that rust be removed as well. حضر أمه. So he says, when that arrived, you see there? When 9 months, had passed, what happened? حضر أمه ليلة مولده. And some say الشريف آسية ومريم في نسوة من الحظيرة القدسية. Here's the point. On the night of his honorable birth, some will not say Sharif, they will add Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam there. حضر أمه ليلة مولده صلى الله عليه وسلم آسية. And here's the contentious fact. On the night of his honorable birth, Asiyah and Maryam were present. حضر, they were present. Amongst whom? Amongst women في نسوة من الحظيرة القدسية, from the holy enclosure. Al-Hazira is an enclosed, preserved, safe space. And Al-Qudusiyya, Quds, means holy, sanctified, sacred. It is a description of Jannah, right? A description of Jannah, the holy or sacred or sanctified enclosure, pen, safe space, enclosed space. Who are those women? في نسوة من الحضيرة. They are the حور عين. So this here is that point that I mentioned before in the narrative of Abdullah ibn Abbas, where he says that Amina said, and he met someone who got this narration that was passed on to this person, but you remember it's like 40 years before The Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam proclaimed the message at the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's birth. So how did that narratives get passed on? Via different chains, and they may not have been authentic or strong. But it reached Ibn Abbas. And those who take it from him again, they also became a bit, they were a bit under microscopes regarding their reliability. You with me? So the narration is weak, and some say rather put it under fabricated. We don't want to, but it is there. It's documented, it's passed on, it's shared. Where he said that Amina said, at the time I was giving birth, I saw these tall women. And when I asked who they were, I was told that the one is Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, who accepted Islam centuries ago. And the other is Maryam, bint Imran, who's the mother of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, who accepted it, was a believer, a righteous woman, gave birth, became pregnant and gave birth without the involvement of any man. A miracle. And who else were with them? Women of the Hurun Ain. In their spirit forms, it's a door of the unseen that was like open for her to see them there in her presence when she's giving birth to the most beloved of all creation. When she was about to give birth to the most beloved of the Creator. So he, Al-Imam al-Barzanji, had his own opinion regarding that narration. And he felt so confident regarding certain facts that he included those facts in his qasida here. And this is one of it. She was in a physical state that pushed her to a spiritual state where she was able to see support from women, righteous women of history. Not any righteous woman, the most righteous woman in history. Okay? Asiya accepted the call of Nabi Musa alayhi salam and became a believer despite being under the tyrant of the time, Pharaoh. Okay? But yes, this is that piece that is read, and Imam Barzanji mentions and documents and adds it to his qasida. حضر أمه ليلة مولده الشريف وليلة مولده. Without the word sharif, you can have it like that as well. آسية ومريم في نسوة من الحظيرة القدسية وأخذها المخاض فولدته صلى الله عليه وسلم نورا نوري, if you want to join, يتلألأ سناه. And the labor pains took her. وأخذها المخاض. The labor pains took hold of her. فولدته, and she gave birth to him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. She gave birth to him as a light, nuran, a light, يتلألأ سناه, whose brilliance glistened and radiated. She gave birth to him as a light, whose brilliance glistened and radiated. There's a narration I will quote next week where she's narrated to have said, when she gave birth to him, she saw a light exit from her, from which certain visions were opened for her. In Cape Town, this is where reciters stop, and everyone then stands for salutations. And I will comment on that next week, inshallah. Okay? But before we continue, one more slide to show you. We listen to Al-Hajj Amin Kanamaya rendering this section of the fourth riwayah for us, inshallah.
تم من حملي شهران على مشهور الأكوال المروية توفي بالمدينة المنورة أبوه عبد الله كان قد اجتاز بأخواله بني عدي من الطائفة النجارية ومكث فيهم شهرا سكيما يعانون سكما وشكوى ولما تم من
صلى الله عليه وسلم
حمله على الراجح 9 أشهر قمرية وآن للزمان أن ينجلي عنه صدى قدر أمه
حضر
ليلة مولده
صلى الله عليه وسلم
آسية ومريم في نسوة من الحظيرة القدسية وأخذ المخاض فولدته صلى الله عليه وسلم نورا يتلعلع سنا صلى الله على محمد نسوة يأخذ صلى الله عليه وسلم نورا يتلعلع سنا صلى الله على محمد.
It ends there. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Yes, beautiful, isn't it? And again, it's a compilation expressing the love that the Sheikh had for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is who we are supposed to love more than our parents, more than our children, and more than all of mankind. This is part of our faith. And Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this part of our iman. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. You do not have iman. None of you, an individual amongst you, does not have iman until I am more beloved to him than his parent, his child, and all of humanity. We love Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we show this love by learning about his life. We show this love by implementing his sunnah. We show this love by living his character. And of the ways scholars have also shown their love for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is writing poetry praising him. Is writing poetry praising him. And this is one example of a poetic set of prose, a rhyming set of prose in which the scholar documents facts about Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu life and his birth. And he even drew from this unique narration, speaking of, but bringing our mind to a level of understanding that Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu was not like any other of Allah's creation, and being the most beloved, we can go to accept that the creation itself, whom Nabi Muhammad SAW was sent to as a mercy for it all, the creation itself responded and was shaken and was changed and was moved and was illuminated by the Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu birth and his presence. Okay, so whoever wishes to read to me only has to know until this piece. Okay, beyond this point, only a few groups in Cape Town continue beyond this point in the fourth riwayah. They read until the end of the riwayah after the salutation section and then end with prayer. Some groups, for a few, generally people stop where we stop tonight. But there are some who, after the salutations, will sit again and read until the end of the fourth riwayah and then conclude with a dua. We, inshallah, will address the end of the fourth riwayah next week, simply to complete it. Simply to complete it. However, if any of you wish to send me audio clips of yourselves reading these riwayat, or you want to call one day and read it to me over the phone, you only need to go until where we ended now. Okay? You do not have to complete the entire fourth riwayah. So those who wish to read this qasida to me for ijaza, for traditional permission, only need to do so until where we stop today. You understand? Inshallah. But next week, just to complete the fourth riwayah and hear what it says, we will address the second part of that fourth riwayah, inshallah. So keep well, continue sending salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and we make dua for continued well-being and protection, so that we can meet on this platform next week again, inshallah. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.